nāsthitas bhāvo tiṣṭhate sthito न tiṣṭhati न tiṣṭhati tiṣṭhamānaḥ nutpannaś tiṣṭhati.
Nāsthitas tiṣṭhate bhāvaḥ sthito bhāvo na tiṣṭhati tiṣṭhate tiṣṭhamānaḥ nutpannaś tiṣṭhati. MMK chapter 7 verse 22. A non-static thing does not stay still. A static thing does not stay still. One now staying still does not stay still. And what, being unborn, stays still? Or who, being beyond birth, stays still? So in explaining this verse, or exploring this verse, I should say, the challenge is always to be the explorer. And I'm aware of the temptation here to be the one who knows, especially in contrast with the ones who clearly didn't know, like, for example, J. Garfield, Sid Edison, Katsura, academic translators who don't practice sitting meditation. Perhaps the truth of it is that translating Shobogenzo and spending 35 years devoted to sitting meditation, especially in light of Alexander's discoveries, gives you the confidence to know that you don't know. And so this fourth pada is a question. Ko means, so ko is from kaha, nominative singular masculine. Before anutpanna, it goes to ko nutpanna. So kaha plus a goes to the really sandy ko. So kaha means nominative singular masculine, who or what. So it could mean ko bhāvaḥ, what thing, what existent thing, or it could mean what person. And then anutpannaḥ means being unborn or being beyond birth. And then tiṣṭhati is third person singular of star. And star is the root of sthiti in the chapter title, Utpada Sthiti Bhanga. On the surface, that means genesis, stasis, dissolution of a moment of consciousness. Below the surface, as Nāgārjuna is exploring it, it also means going up in Zazen, staying still, which is the essence of Zazen, and cessation, which is the third noble truth. And it's also the fourth noble truth, the way of cessation of suffering, which is also Zazen. So, below the surface, this verse, as Nāgārjuna's, this chapter, as Nāgārjuna's been exploring it, seems to me, it's basically an exploration of sitting meditation. So the word star, the verbal root star, which it means to stand, in the first place, to stand firm. Secondary meanings include to continue to be, to continue to exist, to endure, to last. It means to come to rest, to stay quiet, to stop. So tiṣṭhate says ko tiṣṭhati, kaha tiṣṭhati means who stops, who stays still, or what stops, what stays still. And anutpanna, we've had several times before, means being unborn. So an is negative, and utpannaḥ, past participle of utpad. So not having been born, being unborn, or beyond birth, in the sense of which anirodham anutpadam, the teaching of dependent arising, is beyond death, beyond birth. Anirodham, beyond death. Anutpadam, beyond birth. So that's a question that's inviting exploration. Of that, there is no doubt. It's an open question. And what, being born, stays still? And what, being unborn, stays still? Or who, being beyond birth, stays still? The question is so open, we don't even know exactly what question it is. It's a question, it's question words that invite exploration. Of that I'm sure. So what I'm sure about is it's not a rhetorical question. I mean, actually, it is a rhetorical question on the surface. Nāgārjuna is inviting people who don't know any better to think it's a rhetorical question, and therefore they know what the answer is. So, I'm now sitting on my high horse like Uncle Eugene or like Gudo Nishijima as the kind of arbiter, the judge, you know, the wise one who is looking down upon the unwise, the ones who don't know. I'm afraid that is exactly what I'm doing. But in my defence, what I know is that I don't know. What I know is that Nāgārjuna is inviting us with a title like Utpadastiti Banga Pariksha to explore what sthiti, the past participle, or no, it's the noun, the past participle of star is sthita, and sthiti is the noun. So sthiti means stasis or staying still. So if we're talking about ontological argument, sthiti means stasis. So the moment of consciousness has its genesis, its stasis, and its dissolution. Those are like ontological terms. Okay, below the surface, it's about going up, staying still. Sthiti means staying still as an action noun, and banga means breaking up, cessation. So what I'm sure about is that Siddhartha and Katsura, in giving the impression they understand what it means, are wrong. So here's their translation. An entity that has already endured is not enduring. An entity that has not yet endured is not enduring. So they've translated tiṣṭhate in the first para. So the verb tiṣṭhati means it stays still. And so that verb appears in all four paras. Nāsthitas, tiṣṭhate bhāvaḥ, sthito bhāvo tiṣṭhati, tiṣṭhate tiṣṭhamānaḥ, ko nutpannaś tiṣṭhati. So in each pada we've got the word tiṣṭhati, except in the first pada and the third pada it's tiṣṭhate. And originally the text had tiṣṭhati, but it was amended by De Jong, and MacDonald confirmed that emendation was true based on an analysis of the meter. So tiṣṭhati and tiṣṭhate are interchangeable. They both mean third person singular star, it stays still. So Siddhartha and Katsura have translated stay still as is enduring. An entity that has already endured is not enduring. An entity that has not yet endured is not enduring. That which is presently enduring is not enduring. And what unoriginated entity is there that is enduring? Okay, and then here's their comment. Bear with me. hard going. An existing thing that, by virtue of existing, has endured, is not what the characteristic of duration characterizes. For what role could the characteristic play in something that is already enduring? As Buddha Palita says, to claim that it is through contact with duration that the existing thing endures is to supply a second duration, which threatens to lead to an infinite regress. Something that has not yet endured is likewise not what duration characterizes, since enduring and not yet enduring are contradictory properties. As for the third possibility, there is no such thing as presently enduring. At any given moment, either something has endured or it has not. You see, at any given moment. They're turning the moment into a non-empty thing. It's the power of now. And then finally, in connection to the fourth pada, and so this is for me is the key thing. And since every existing thing is impermanent, everything must originate at some time or other. Thus, there could not be real things that are unoriginated. And so, the unoriginated could not be what endures. See, they've taken the fourth pada as a rhetorical question, and their conclusion is that, and so the unoriginated nutpannaḥ could not be what endures. So Nāgārjuna is asking, to use their terminology, what unoriginated endures? What being unoriginated endures? That's Nāgārjuna's question. And they've taken it as being a rhetorical question. What's unoriginated could not be what endures. So they've understood this verse is about ontology, about existence and non-existence, about enduring and not enduring. And so understood like that, the fourth pada is a rhetorical question, and they have definitely asserted what is unoriginated could not be what endures. Wrong. The fourth pada is a question. It's an open question. And I prefer to translate it, and what, core, being unborn, nutpannaḥ, stay still, tiṣṭhate. So what stays still? The essence of Zazen is keeping still. Like in Christian meditation too, be still and know that I am God. To practice has always some quality in whatever religion, whatever, even if you're playing darts or in a karate fight, actual practice has this combination of stillness and movement. That's something in practice. I'm not talking about what stillness is or what it isn't. It's just a fact that anybody who's ever walked out of the library onto a sports pitch or walked into the pub and played darts understands that if you're a cut above chimpanzees running after bananas, I mean, even chimpanzees have probably got more wisdom than Sidderis and Katra. You see on David Attenborough documentaries, the old chimp sitting by the stream sort of in a reflective mode, keeping still as the water runs by. That kind of reflective function is probably there in animals somewhat, but unfortunately not in academic philosophers with their busy ontological thoughts. So the question is, what stays still? Is it the mind that stays still? Is it a function of the vestibular system staying still? Is it the whole self that stays still in a moving world? Or does the world stay still? those are questions that, again, remind one of Master Dogen's questions at the beginning of chapter 72 of Shobogenzo, Zammai or Zammai. Is it a somersault? Is it a state of vigorous activity? Is it doing something? Is it not doing anything? Is it vertical? Is it horizontal? Is it lengthening? Is it widening? Those are questions to which the answer is no, if there's any answer. But they're questions that invite exploration. So on that basis that I'm willing to sit on my high horse and say that Sideris and Katsura have got it wrong. And the reason they got it wrong is their fundamental basis is that of the intellectual thinker and not the practitioner. So on the basis of practice, the first pada says, a non-static thing, that's asthitaha bhāvaḥ. So bhāvaḥ is thing, existent thing, or it could mean being, a living being. In any case, asthitaha is sthita, static, with the prefix a, non-static. A non-static thing, nātiṣṭhate, does not stay still. Nāsthitas, tiṣṭhate, bhāvaḥ. A non-static thing does not stay still. So, I wrote a footnote on this 2 years ago, which still makes sense. So, this verse marks the beginning of Nāgārjuna's consideration of sthiti, not as the commentarial contrivance stasis, but rather as the action or activity of standing still or staying still. Only an empty thing, like for example a flying bird, I should say only an empty happening, like for example a bird flying, can exist as a non-static thing. But a non-static thing, like a flying bird, very evidently is not standing still. So the thesis, a non-static thing does not stand still, is a truism. So that there are 4 padas, and having been trained by Gudo Nishijima to think about things in 4 phases, it's not so difficult. The first pada is the thesis, is a truism, a non-static thing. Okay, think of any non-static thing, like a flying bird, a horse moving towards hay, the horse chewing the hay, an insect crawling up the wall. Any non-static thing, by definition, if it's non-static, it does not stay still. Nā-tiṣṭhate. Okay, so the first pada is the truism, the starting point, the thesis. That's easy enough. Then the second pada says, a static thing does not stay still. So the same elements are there. A static thing is sthitaha. First pada said asthitaha, second pada says sthitaha. Before bhāvaḥ, sthitaha becomes with sandhi sthito. So sthito, a static thing, does not stay still. Again, nā-tiṣṭhati. In the previous verse, it's nā-tiṣṭhate, but it's the same. Third person singular of star. Nā-tiṣṭhati does not stay still. Sthito bhāvo nā-tiṣṭhati. A static thing does not stay still. So this one is the antithesis. How come a static thing does not stay still? My footnote of 2 years ago. The paradoxical antithesis requires us to dig deeper into emptiness. How does a static thing not stand still? Because standing still is a real activity, an empty happening, in other words. Whereas in reality, there is no static thing. there is, in other words, no self-existing, non-empty thing which might perform that real activity. So again, a static thing, sthito, bhāvaḥ, does not stay still. Nātiṣṭhati. Sthito, bhāvo, nātiṣṭhati. A static thing does not stay still, because staying still is an empty happening. Like if you're doing qigong and you're keeping still, that is an empty happening. You are not a static thing when you're practicing qigong or practicing zazen, or when you're just at that moment before you let the dart go, if you're playing darts, or at that moment if you're doing blowpipe darts, that moment when you've taken a deep breath and you're just waiting to send the dart flying towards the target. That moment of stillness in a real activity is not done by a static thing. It's done by an empty, it's done as an empty happening in which there's no subject, no object. There's a real activity of staying still. So that's the antithesis. Then the third pada says, one now staying still. That's tiṣṭhamānaḥ. So that's present participle of sta, to stay still. Tiṣṭhamānaḥ. So the nominative singular masculine. He who is staying still. Tiṣṭhate, does not stay still. One now staying still does not stay still. Okay, so that immediately makes us think about the now being visited is not visited. It's back to that kind of discussion we saw in chapter 2. I'll read out the footnote I wrote 2 years ago, so that's 4. I wrote, when the Zen masters of Tang China, for example, sat still in remote mountain dojos, thoroughly enjoying themselves in that practice, so that there was no second person, then there would have been no self-consciousness of sitting still. The description of the third pada then is akin to the description in chapter 2 of the now being visited, not being visited. In other words, it's a kind of ironic negation of mindfulness. One who's really staying still does not mindfully stay still. Think of Mike Tyson. If you watch on YouTube, Mike Tyson in his heyday knocking the hell out of everybody that steps before him. You know, he's an absolute, what's the word? A huge repository of energy. But like a tiger that's ready to strike, he's not always in movement, you know. But you could bet your bottom dollar, if you'd asked him about how mindful he was of staying still, he wouldn't have been interested in discussing it. It's like the tiger standing before its mountain stronghold. He's staying still, but he certainly doesn't have any Buddhist conception about what it means to stay still. There's no second person, there's no second tiger who's separated himself from the activity of staying still in order to write his PhD thesis on it. And then the fourth pada again, and cha, what or who, kaha, being unborn, nutpannaḥ, stay still, tiṣṭhati. Ko nutpannaś tiṣṭhati, and what, being unborn, stays still. Who, being beyond birth, stay still. Again, in conclusion, I do not know the answer to those questions, but I know for damn sure that I don't know the answer. And when Sideris and Katsa on my Kindle here purport to know the answer, it's a rhetorical question, and they know the answer. No, they don't. They are deluding themselves. They're pulling the wool over their own eyes. And not only that, they quite successfully pull the wool over a lot of other people's eyes. So they won a prize for their great translation of MMK. But really, it's the blind leading the blind. Nāsthitas tiṣṭhate bhāvaḥ sthito bhāvo tiṣṭhati tiṣṭhate tiṣṭhamānaḥ nutpannaś tiṣṭhati. A non-static thing does not stay still, like a bird flying through the air, doesn't stay still. A static thing does not stay still, because what stays still is not a static thing. One now staying still does not stay still. In other words, a person who really practices staying still has no self-consciousness. There's no second person staying still. There's no mindfulness of staying still. And what, being unborn, stays still? Or who, being beyond birth, stays still?
नस्थिता भावो तिष्ठत्य स्थितभावो न तिष्ठति न तिष्ठति तिष्ठमानः को नुत्पन्नश्च तिष्ठति।